My name is Hugh Forrest. I am the Chief Programming Officer at South by Southwest in Austin. You can reach me by email hugh@sxsw.com. I don't do too many things well in life, but I answer emails pretty quickly. Today I'm going to talk about 5 big challenges that conferences face for the future. That sounds kind of ominous, is kind of ominous, and I think it actually got into the program as 5 big problems. I like challenges a little more, but to go a little more positive towards the end, plus the path to be a bit more optimistic about tomorrow. So here we go. First, let me say it is a big honor to be here today. Thanks for coming out to hear me talk this morning. As always, I think I can learn more from listening to you guys and what your experiences are than what you can learn from me, but for the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, we'll pretend otherwise a little bit. Thanks as well to the organizers for putting up with my problems. The email that organizers, such as yourselves, conference organizers, never like to get 2 days away from the event. I have a family problem. I need to reschedule stuff, but they were very, very accommodating, and props to them. I also want to say major props to the organizers for having such an inclusive lineup. Give them a hand for that. It was really, really cool. Inclusivity is very, very, very important for where we are in 2018, but I will say that it is always very important moving forward. And again, really great to see such an inclusive lineup here, and happy and very proud to be a part of that. Okay, very briefly, what is South by Southwest? South by Southwest was started in 1987 in Austin as a music-only event. We added film and what was then called multimedia in 1994. I came on board actually in 1989. I got hired because I had a computer and they didn't. That's always a good story, always a good laugh. It was a Mac Plus. And if you think of a Mac Plus, you know, it's like about this much of where our smartphone is now. We grew a lot over the last 15 years. We ended up being the right place, the right time on a lot of social media stuff. Our big success story, or not, given where we are in 2018, was Twitter kind of launched at South by Southwest. That pushed a whole lot of startups to come to South by Southwest. That pushed a whole lot of activity. The event now draws about 70,000 registrants from around the US and across the world. But size and scale is another talk for another time. And size and scale is really, I would say, unimportant. What we come to events for is small interactions, more intimate interactions like we have this one. And in fact, big is the enemy of that. We have certainly changed a lot since 1987, but the mission statement or the mission remains the same. South by Southwest helps creative people achieve their goals. And speaking of goals, my general goals for today's talk. I want to put forth a realistic assessment of the current conference landscape. This may be a little more applicable to bigger events like South by Southwest, but I think it is also applicable to smaller kind of boutique events, which some of you guys are involved with, or at least the current landscape as I see it. Again, the first part of the talk may not be too uplifting, which is bad because I hate to be negative, but again, I hope to kind of rectify that towards the end of the talk and offer some optimism moving forward. So, 5 challenges that we face moving forward in the conference landscape. Challenge number 1, overall market oversaturation, oversaturation. We've seen an explosion of events in the last few years. We've seen an explosion of free events in the last few years. I've got this artwork from Denver Startup Week, which is actually happening right now in Denver. I've been to it before. It's a fantastic event. It covers a lot of the same stuff that we used to cover, or that we cover at South by Southwest. The upside is that they do it for free, we don't. So much more accessible. We've also seen in the last few years a lot more media companies get involved with events. New Yorker does a festival. Wired's got a big event coming up celebrating their 25th year. So grassroots organizers such as yourselves are now competing against big media companies that are trying to do the same thing. I think this explosion of events is due to a lot of factors. From the outside, it sometimes seems that events are easy to do. We know from doing events they're not particularly easy to do. I think that's one reason people get in. One way or another, more competition than ever before in this space, and I think this competition will eventually thin the pack. I think that we'll eventually see some of those less compelling events fall out, and that's something that we need to be concerned about moving forward, or if you're an event organizer, you need to make sure that you're not one of the events that fall out. Factor number 2 here, or problem number 2 moving forward, which I'm calling the YouTube factor. For the best speakers, you can now see most of these people online. That certainly wasn't the case 30 years ago when we started South by Southwest. And in most cases, watching a video of someone online is a pretty good experience. You don't have to worry about standing in line to get in the venue. You don't have to worry that you're sitting next to someone you don't want to sit next to. The sound's good, the lighting is generally good. You can get that information online. A lot of conferences, such as this one, put their content online after the event. So how does that impact ticket sales when you can get all this stuff free online? I think another thing here is that there are easily accessed videos and other content from other conferences. This is a big change again from 30 years ago. When South by Southwest started in 1987, there wasn't a whole lot of competition, and people hadn't seen videos of TED, or hadn't seen videos of CES, or hadn't seen videos of festivals, of Burning Man, all these great things. People have seen that now and have a little more expectations. And the expectations are much higher than ever before. Again, this is very different than 30 years ago when we started South by Southwest and we didn't have that kind of bar to go against. Issue number 3, in terms of moving forward, things that conferences face moving forward, and I've heard it in the talks this morning as well, rising costs for everybody involved. It costs more to organize an event. These costs range from room rentals, to travel, to AV, to the container of orange juice that costs $100, which may actually be a low cost there. Particularly costly if you're adding in more bells and whistles, and also costs for attendees. The costs are rising for attendees to come to events. One of the challenges we face at South by Southwest is that we don't have enough hotel rooms. And so hotels raise their prices considerably in Austin during South by Southwest, which isn't a cost that we can really control, but it certainly impacts the attendance. We also see that companies, brands are putting a lot more effort, a lot more money into events like South by Southwest. And just a brief detour here, you may have heard about this thing that happened at South by Southwest 2018. This was the Westworld activation that HBO put on. They essentially took over a town that was about 20 miles outside of Austin. They recreated the whole Westworld experience at this town. If you were lucky enough to get a ticket, and tickets went in about a minute, you got bussed out to this town, you got off the bus, you were all of a sudden in the middle of Westworld. Apparently it was a really cool experience. I didn't get to go, but really cool. But point here, this thing took 6 months to plan at least. HBO spent easily $1 million on this thing. Great, but how do you top something like that? And how do smaller events that don't have that kind of budget compete with that kind of expectation? Again, rising costs, they're challenges to us all. Issue number 4 moving forward. I was struggling with the politically correct way to say this, but I will just say political realities of 2018. This is a screenshot of one of the things that we faced in Austin last March, where a kid called a bomb threat into a club during South by Southwest, a club where the Roots were going to play. It was going to be a huge show. Club had to be evacuated, had to be canceled. That was actually the lesser of the 2 bomb challenges we had during South by Southwest. There was a serial bomber in Austin during South by Southwest, which wasn't particularly connected with South by Southwest, but there were 2 bombs that went off during South by Southwest. Lots of challenges. Again, this is where we are in 2018. Paris nightclub shooting was a sad wake-up call. The Las Vegas shooting last October was even more so. Again, we had several bomb-related incidents at South by Southwest 2018. I will say that at the size and scale of the event of South by Southwest, we have spent a lot of time over the years working on safety and security. It is even more so now. You know, time that you used to spend thinking about how to build creative experiences for your audience, you now spend with Homeland Security, with local police, figuring out what do you do in the worst case scenario. And the upside is that this was pretty much the worst case scenario last March. We kind of knew what to do. You had that muscle memory built in. So we were able to kind of overcome this challenge without too much disruption. But again, it's a fact of life in 2018, particularly for bigger events. I think that from an attendee perspective, attendees are more and more concerned about safety and security. Now that I've got you really depressed, point number 5 here, in terms of challenges for the future conferences. Emergence of virtual reality. The full promise of VR definitely is not here yet, but it will be pretty soon. VR, some kind of VR experience, whether it's goggles, whether it's contact lenses, whether it's some kind of helmet you put on, whether it's something we can't even imagine yet, it'll be a much easier way to attend events. It'll be a much cheaper way to attend events. It'll be a much safer way to attend events. I won't have to get on a plane to fly to Chicago to be here. I'll just go into my study, put this little helmet on, and I'll be in the same room with you guys, and it'll be great, you know, much easier. VR has the power, like it or not, to change everything. Other similar technologies may also have a huge impact on what we do in the event space. All right, summary of these 5 challenges. Again, overall market saturation. There are a lot of events, conferences, festivals out there now, and that I think is different than 15, 20 years ago. There's this YouTube factor, rising costs for all involved, political realities of 2018, the emergence of virtual reality, and other technologies. So again, you had lots of energy with the first 2 speakers. I've completely brought you down, made it seem completely grim. Sorry about that. But, all right, now I'll try to bring you back up. This is a photo from South by Southwest Music Festival last year. I just love the energy in that room. You know, it's a punk band in 2018. They're all having fun. Who knows what the music sounds like? I think that is, in many ways, kind of the essence of community. I'm a strong believer in the power of technology such as VR, but I'm even I believe even more strongly in the power of community. As organizers, the power of community is our North Star. Community has always been important. Community is even more important as we move forward in 2018 and beyond. Conferences, what we do provides community. This is a photo of a thing we do called the South by Southwest Community Service Awards. This was run a couple of years ago, but really proud and cool that we had so much diversity of genders, diversity of colors, diversity of backgrounds, people from around the world that we were awarding for their community efforts. Conferences help attendees connect with their tribe. Even better is when conferences help attendees find new tribes to connect with. New tribes lead to new friendships, new relationships. New tribes lead to new jobs. New tribes lead to new opportunities. And face-to-face interactions are always more powerful than online. I think one of the big ironies of what we do with South by Southwest, we, in many ways, are primarily a technology conference at this point. Have a lot of film and music also, but very much focused on technology. Very much again grew because of social media. That said, our secret sauce is that people come to Austin and interact real-time, face-to-face. They find how great that is to not be interacting on Twitter, on Facebook, on whatever else social media platforms. Face-to-face interactions are always more powerful than online interactions. That is always a lesson of events like South by Southwest. I think it's certainly a lesson of what we're doing here today. I will even go so far as to say that conferences are the new church. This is a photo of the kind of tech-savvy bishop from the Vatican who was a speaker at South by Southwest a couple of years ago. Pretty cool. A lot of us don't participate in organized religion anymore. So there are fewer times when we congregate with others. One of the few times we do this is within conferences. Festivals, things like Burning Man, things like Bonnaroo, have also taken over a lot of this church function. And I think people will always crave these kinds of connections. Even more so, conferences create inspiration. This photo is Esther Perel, who was our opening speaker, our keynote on the first day of South by Southwest 2018. She was named Speaker of the Event, which is the honor that distinguishes the speaker that we feel really set the tone for the event, was the most inspiring speaker. I encourage you to watch her TED Talks. You can watch her talk from South by Southwest. You can read her books. You can read her podcast. She is amazing, and amazing in terms of this inspiration. Inspiring sessions, what we find time and time again at South by Southwest, and I think what you found or probably find in your own experience, is that inspiring sessions draw the biggest crowds. Inspiring activations are always the most popular activations. Inspiring speakers always get the most positive feedback. Inspiring events are the ones that people want to attend. So again, it is great, it is fantastic to have speakers who give out great information at your event. Even better to have speakers that are completely inspiring. And I think this fits into the idea of the Maslow's self-actualization, this idea of inspiring. When you create an event that people go away from, they're inspired to do better, they have new motivation to do creative things, to follow ideas, then you're really, really doing something. And I think that's, again, our North Star as conference organizers. I will also say, and simply because we are in Chicago, we need inspiration more than ever in 2018. We were lucky enough to have the president speak at South by Southwest in 2016. That was pretty neat. People want events that will bring them together. In this political landscape we're in now, this global landscape we're in now, people want things that will bring them together, not separate them. People want events, people want experiences that give them hope, that will lead to a better future, events that will make them feel more alive and more human. Again, that's what we do in our best days. And I will say that inspiration is definitely the path forward here. And framing that against these 5 challenges, market saturation, the fact that there are so many conferences, events out there now, means that less inspiring events won't survive. We still have that challenge, that issue of online video, of YouTube, of speakers out there. That said, I think online inspiration is more powerful. I mean, on-site inspiration, seeing someone in person, hopefully being able to network with them before, after the session, that night, the next morning, that type thing, is way, way stronger than watching someone on YouTube. Yes, there are significant costs out there, but people will pay premium prices for inspirational experiences. People will also endure risks, endure these challenges that we have with safety in 2018 for inspirational experiences. Last but certainly not least, on-site inspiration will again mitigate the emergence of VR as well as other technologies. Again, I think it's hard for us to imagine, to understand what VR will look like in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, what other technologies will look like, how that'll transport us virtually from place to place. That all said, it is impossible to think that that will replace the power of being in the same room, being able to go out to dinner with someone, you know, to have breakfast, have a drink, have coffee, understand if you want to work with this person in the future. And I'm not sure that technology will ever be able to duplicate that. Okay, hope to see you in March in Austin. As a reminder, more tech and film during the first part of the week, a little more music in the second half of the week. We have the film festival, we have the music festival, as well as, again, lots and lots of networking opportunities. Again, please email me if you have questions. Thanks again for listening to me lecture on. Thanks for putting up with our tech challenges. And again, a real honor to be here. So thank you very much.